creativity is a very, it's not an efficient thing, right? There's no one is out here saying like, we're all starving, we need more paintings, right? It's not something that is a utilitarian thing. It is, art making and creativity is more to do with our soul, our experience, our emotions. And so if you want to make something just because you want to make it, it's okay if it's not good. It's okay if it's bad. Give it a try. The only way you're going to get to something that is good is through a lot of really bad stuff. So you have to be willing to fail, embrace that in order to ever make your way to something good, creative. So that are in here, try to find them correctly. But I've got these darks, so I've got something in here, and I can pull something light. It gets me like 90% of the way there. Then I can start sort of toying with how to adjust it a little bit. I've already put a lot in. So it's kind of a weird thing to do if you think about painting, because you generally want to preserve brush strokes, right? You want to preserve some of that character. So to be, nobody asked, but to be clear about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, I'm not trying to like sterilize my painting, right? So I'm not trying to take a brush to erase all of the marks that I've made. What I'm trying to do is because I'm working in transparent layers, I want the boundaries of those layers to not totally be defined. So they create sort of a softness to them. That'll make this edge feel less like a brush that painted an edge and more like sort of an edge that emerges sort of through these layers that I built up. But I'll leave, and you'll notice on this one and on other paintings, right, like these, I'll leave, you can see, right, as I'm sort of marking over them, you can see those, that sort of like brushing over comes through. So I'm not trying to erase my hand from the painting. In fact, probably the only thing that's interesting about it is that it's made by me and not my printer. So I don't want to erase that, but I want to use my agency as a painter to control how I want it to look and exactly where I want those marks to be. So like I'm not happy with, for whatever reason, I just don't like that little spot. Imperfect, yeah, but I'm just bothered by that. So I'll try to go through and make sure that sort of comes out a little bit. So I'm still using my eye to like curate exactly how this works. But it's a balance to try to find. So at this point, a lot of backing up, trying to look at the whole. I still have like in here and here. Those are still rougher. But I'm backing up because I want to look at the whole thing. Are there spots that need to be dark that aren't dark? Are there spots that are just basically too light all around? Things not working as a whole. I think probably all of this is like too flat. So I'm gonna see if I can wipe out any more, although I think I've pretty much wiped out. Pretty much wiped out all that I can. Probably go back, bring some paint back into that a little bit so we can pull some of those highs up higher. One tip I learned a long time ago that's really helped my work, if you're thinking figurative people, is that, basically nothing should actually be white. Everything's darker than I think it is. And so, if you're looking at his face here, look at that little highlight is white. None of this is white, but it doesn't look too dark, right? And so, as I'm looking at this face here, like all of this is very light, and I'm not able to pull like a tiny specular highlight off. It's all just a little bit too light. So, first thing I'm going to try to do in a minute, not right this second, is so I'm going to try to kind of come back with this again and see if I can just pull, because I don't need a lot of paint, I can pull some paint into that without disrupting what's around it. Which
See, that's the other thing that
this is the
You
lovely
cannot
thing.
do that with white.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the whole, yeah. this is the selling point right here, right? It's like, oh, I'll just move it, right? It's fine. Yeah, I'll just scrape it up and I'll push it around, right?
That's right.
I don't have to worry. That is the problem with watercolor for me. I'm like, well, I can't take that back. I'm gonna just leave it. There's nothing for me to do to fix it. So.
Do you use a grid at all, or do you freehand it?
It depends on what the project is. I don't generally use grids. I used to use grids. That's how I used to do it. And there's nothing wrong with it at all. I personally just found it to be like a little bit clunky. Right? Like do the whole grid and then make the drawing, and I would still not be that happy with the drawing. And then I erase the whole grid out and then I fix the whole drawing. You know, it was just like it was helpful, but not so much. And then I projected for a while, so that was a thing, which is like here's a projector. Cheater. Think you can use any tools that you have in your tool belt, right? It's okay. You shouldn't use tools that cover up your inadequacies, right? So I never used a projector because I couldn't paint or couldn't draw my way there. That's because I was like, well, I could spend 6 hours on this drawing or like 15 minutes. I'm gonna choose the 15-minute option. And now what I've been doing, I'm kind of using a hybrid. I've been making my drawings small and then projecting my drawings big and then using the projector to do that. So I can work my way through the proportions of the drawing at a smaller scale and manage that quicker, and but it still has my sort of touch to it, my imperfection to it, and then I'll project it out. So it's a faster process for me, especially if I'm working on like a show, where I still get the imperfection, but you know, I'm using tools to my advantage that help me work my way through. I do not consider myself a very pretentious about art making, but I do think in terms of like for your own good, you should never use a tool because you're unable to do the thing, right? So if you're gonna use a grid or use a projector, it should not be because you can't do the drawing, right? It should be because, well, you can, but you know, you're in a time crunch or something, and so you're gonna speed up that process, if that makes sense. So if you're painting something where you kind of want, it feels like it wants your eye to go somewhere, right? In this painting, you feel like you want your eye to kind of rest in this area. I always think about like manipulating light as a way to manipulate what my eye gets drawn into. And so it's probably not quite as dark down around here as I'm gonna make it. But I'm gonna pull this a little bit darker in these shadows because you just don't really need to look there, right? I wanna kind of circle you into like this area up here. So a little lesson on light. When light hits an object, well, this is a good example. This is a good example here. Light hits an object, it's round. There's gonna be a point on that object where it's now turned away, right? So when it turns, even if it's soft and round, right? There is still a peak to that turnover. And so that peak would be called like a terminating line. That's a termination of the light. So that light coming in on this, at some point on the side of the hand here, it terminates where it's hitting. And so where it terminates along here should be a somewhat aggressive change in value, right? And then in a shadow, you have light all around it bouncing off of objects. They're gonna bring light back in, right? And so shadow is generally not black unless it's two surfaces touching each other. But along this termination, right, you have this core shadow, and that is going to be sort of the sort of richest, darkest part of those shadows. So I'm kind of working out right here in a very, like it's very dark right now and very loose, but I'm kind of working into that termination where it's turning over, and I'm going to sort of let that set the tone for the rest of the shadow sort of moving forward. So this has to be dark and rich and clear, and I can work into some of the subtlety as I move farther out. And for me, this sort of hybrid between drawing and painting. So drawing, you're building up layers. I find really interesting. I think it gives this really subtle, soft look. I'm strong too, and that's okay. Because I want to make this kind of semi-transparent surface, I don't use very much paint. So I'm kind of pressing it into the surface. It's a thing called scumbling. That's like a more traditional way of like, it's kind of like glazing, but a little bit drier. It's kind of how I tend to work. Specifically for this, because there's a lot of paint and then I'm moving it around, it'll get really messy. So